the start of the 20th century, America began an adventure different from any other nation in history. Vast natural resources, amazing inventions, and the influx of people from around the world made America the birthplace of a new kind of human experience. And American artists were the first to imagine and represent how nature gave way to culture, the sense of self changed, how media came to dominate reality, and how ordinary people were transformed by the things they used and the images they consumed.
Artists feel things that are emerging in a culture before most of the rest of us ever really understand what they are or have any way of talking about them. Works of art always seem either not to be art at all or to be disturbing or bad, and there's always some way of trying to discount what is fundamentally disturbing about a great work of art.
In the middle of the century, Jackson Pollock proclaimed, "I am nature," to show how he was able to represent himself better through abstract gestures than pictures from the real world. His work was built upon the struggles of earlier artists, such as Georgia O'Keeffe. Her landscape paintings developed a new form of self-expression through abstract shapes and color. Andy Warhol was not interested in nature or soul-searching. He proclaimed, "I want to be a machine." His repetitive images of commodities and celebrities represented a world made up entirely of fabricated images. Warhol saw art as a way to transform that imagery into a new type of visual literacy rather than a form of self-expression.
Can I just answer?
But while Warhol celebrated the superficial pleasures of pop culture, he also exposed how it limited and repressed real human emotions. The prosperity and technical innovations of the 20th century had a hidden effect upon the way people thought about themselves and their environment, and how the way we think was profoundly transformed by apparently neutral innovations, such as the telephone and the television. Artists such as Jean-Michel Basquiat and David Wojnarowicz showed the real effects of 20th century life upon ordinary people. Wojnarowicz's paintings and media collages showed how mass media was destroying the sense of spirituality in America, in the same way that Robert Smithson's work in the 1970s showed how industrial progress was destroying nature, and how the spiritual exploration of nature by artists such as Georgia O'Keeffe and 19th century landscape painters such as Thomas Cole revealed how difficult it was to depict the vast, ever-changing character of nature in art.
Well, I couldn't have been 12 when I had that idea.
You had what idea?
That I wanted to be a painter. I was going to be a painter. I remember talking with a little girl, and I even remember her name, Lena Buchholz. And I said, "Lena, what are you going to do when you grow up?" Well, she didn't know. Well, I said, "I'm going to be a painter." I thought someone could tell me how to paint a landscape, but I never found that person. I had to just settle down and try. I thought someone could tell me how, but I found nobody could. They could tell you how they painted their landscape, but they couldn't tell me to paint mine.
About the history of the United States. It's a history of discovery and settlement of land, and that's a markedly different sort of history than the history of, say, a European nation. So I think from the get-go, Americans had a different understanding of nature. And they went through a phase that entailed fear of and distrust of nature, but very quickly at the beginning of the 19th century, that changed into an admiration for and celebration of the American wilderness.
Emerson says, why should we inherit our relationship to God and nature from our forefathers? Why don't we just do this ourselves, basically? Why shouldn't we have an authentic relation to nature on our own?
Emersonians thought that in nature was to be found redemptive values which would bring people back to some kind of essential character reflecting goodness and benevolence.
Thomas Cole admonished artists to go out into nature to record it so that its uniqueness could in fact be celebrated. He was very concerned about what he called the iron tramp of civilization and the ravages of the axe that were working themselves through the landscape. And his famous painting, The Oxbow of 1836, records that. Half of it shows wilderness in an unadulterated state, and half of it, of course, shows cultivated nature with a warm glow of sunlight bathing it.
There's a way in which the Oxbow is a warning as well as a celebration, that if we don't look at that painting with pleasure and then take that pleasure into our everyday life, then we will risk losing that landscape.
You have to know that Cole hiked up that hill from the cultivated valley to turn around and paint the picture. So the meandering course of the river is also the meandering course of the artist's exercise.
The 19th century American landscape painters inserted themselves into the pictures, so that if you look at a painting like the Oxbow, which is again a famous example, you can see the little figure of the artist, as if to say, I was there.
He's at the very point where wilderness becomes cultivated land. So he's asking us, in a sense, to imagine ourselves as in between a wilderness state and a cultivated state. And he's asking us to contemplate what is happening in the land.
It was clear, even at an early date, that something was being damaged at the same time that something was being created. You can't understand, I think, the Emersons without understanding their opponents. There were, in the United States, many people who were seen as hostile to nature, who saw cleared land as